All right, so let's jump right into this, shall we? We've got a ton to unpack today, and I'm excited to dive in. It's all about Australia's upcoming federal election in 2025.
Buckle up.
We've got a whole stack of news snippets that you, our amazing listeners, have sent our way.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for sending those in, by the way. Super helpful.
Really appreciate it. And our mission, as always, is to make sense of it all for you, to connect the dots and give you a clear, insightful, and hopefully a bit of an entertaining view of what's really going on down under.
Yeah.
Cut through all the noise.
Basically, think of this as your cheat sheet to being completely in the loop. We're going to break down the big policy face-offs, the campaign strategies, the polls, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, all the things that matter.
Yeah.
And judging by what you've all sent us, this election's going to be a real nail-biter. We've got action on like every front imaginable, from healthcare and disaster preparedness to like what you're paying for groceries and even stuff happening with international trade.
A lot going on.
So much. Okay, where do we even begin? Oh, I know. Prime Minister Albanese, he kicked off his campaign in Western Australia, and he made a pretty big splash right out of the gate with a healthcare pledge.
Definitely a big one. He promised a whopping $200 million to upgrade the St. John of God Midland Hospital in Perth.
Yeah, big money for a big issue.
Starting with a healthcare promise, it's interesting, right? It's like a signal flare about what Labor's top priorities are going into this election.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's always a big one for voters. I mean, who doesn't care about healthcare?
Right, exactly.
And then he also just came right out and said he would not, under any circumstances, form a coalition with the Greens if Labor wins. Like, that's pretty definitive, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a pretty bold move, actually, to just rule that out completely.
So what's the strategy there? Why be so upfront about it?
Well, I think it's about trying to appeal to a wider range of voters, especially those who might be kind of in the middle, politically speaking.
Yeah, the centrists.
Exactly. They might not be so keen on a government that has the Greens calling the shots on certain policies.
Right.
Yeah.
So by shutting that door, Labor's projecting this image of, like, stability and doing their own thing.
Right.
No strings attached.
Exactly. They're going for that outright majority, no compromises.
Gotcha. Now, on the other side of the fence, we've got opposition leader Peter Dutton, and he's been spending a lot of time in Queensland. What's the coalition's game plan up there?
Well, Dutton's big announcement in Queensland was a $10 million promise for a brand new weather radar system in the western region.
Okay.
And that's a region that's been hit pretty hard by flooding, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course. So totally different vibe than Albanese's hospital funding, huh?
Yeah, really different. It shows you right off the bat how these two parties are coming at this election from different angles.
For sure. Healthcare versus, like, disaster preparedness.
Yeah.
Big contrast. So what's this focus on regional needs and disaster resilience? What's that telling us about the coalition's overall campaign strategy?
It's a good question. It seems like they're really trying to connect with voters in those regional areas, by zeroing in on issues that directly affect their lives.
Yeah, things they experience firsthand.
Exactly. Like when you've been through those floods, you know how crucial a good weather radar system can be.
Absolutely. Makes you feel safer.
Right. So it's about showing those communities that the coalition understands their worries, their needs, and that they're committed to doing something about it.
Okay. Now, it hasn't all been smooth sailing for either leader, has it?
Yeah.
There's been talk of disruptions on the campaign trail and even some, like, security concerns popping up at events.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So fill us in. What's been going on?
Both Albanese and Dutton, they've both run into protests at some of their campaign events.
Oh, wow.
Which, I mean, it's not completely unheard of, right? When you've got people who feel strongly about things.
Yeah, emotions run high, especially during an election.
Definitely. But it does show you how much people are engaged in this election and how strongly they feel about certain issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about those security breaches? The ones where people were allegedly using fake IDs to get into events. That sounds kind of sketchy. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's definitely a bit more concerning. It could point to a more, a more intense or even polarized political climate.
Yeah.
Like maybe you've got individuals or even groups who are actively trying to mess with the campaigns or cause trouble.
Oh, right. Like trying to stir things up.
Yeah, potentially. It just adds another layer of, maybe even distrust to the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that's probably on everyone's mind right now. The polls. And we've got a couple of different polls painting, well, slightly different pictures, as usual.
Yeah, polls. Always a mixed bag, right?
Always. So walk us through it. What are the numbers saying?
All right, so first up, we've got the news poll, and this one's done for the Australian newspaper. According to them, Labor is currently in the lead with 51% on a two-party preferred basis. The coalition is trailing a bit at 49%. And the interesting thing is, Labor's actually gained 2 points in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, so they're on an upswing.
Yeah, it seems that way.
And what about their primary vote? Has that changed at all?
It has. It's gone up a bit to 33%, while the coalition's actually dropped slightly to 37%. So according to this poll, at least, some voters seem to be shifting towards Labor.
Okay, interesting. But then we've got the Resolve Political Monitor, and they're showing something a bit different, right?
Yep. They've got Labor and the coalition neck and neck at 50% each on a two-party preferred basis.
Okay, so a bit of a discrepancy there.
Yeah, it just goes to show how close this race really is, and also how different polling methods can sometimes give you different results.
Yeah, it makes it hard to predict anything. Okay, but what about preferred prime minister? If people had to choose who they wanted leading the country, who are they leaning towards?
Well, in that Resolve poll we were just talking about, Albanese's actually quite a bit ahead of Dutton as preferred PM. He's got 42% compared to Dutton's 33%.
Wow, that's a pretty big gap, especially when the overall party support seems so even.
Yeah, it's a head-scratcher for sure.
So what do you think that's all about? Why the difference?
It's a good question. It could mean that while some voters are still on the fence about which party they like better, they've got a clearer idea of who they think would make a better leader.
Right, so it's not just about the party, it's about the person at the helm.
Right. And, things like personal qualities, how competent they seem, their leadership style, all that stuff can really sway voters.
Yeah, it's all part of the package. Okay, let's shift gears again and talk about something that's been hitting everyone's wallets lately. The cost of living. It's a big deal. And the government has come out with a pretty bold plan to tackle at least one part of it.
Oh, definitely bold. Albanese has announced this plan to make supermarket price gouging illegal.
Whoa, hold on. Like, actually against the law.
Yeah, exactly. They're looking at similar laws they have in Europe as a model.
Interesting. So why now? Why is this suddenly such a big issue?
I mean, think about it. Inflation is up. The cost of everything is going through the roof. People are feeling the pinch, especially when they go grocery shopping.
Yeah, I feel that.
And a lot of people are starting to feel like some supermarkets are taking advantage of the situation, hiking prices more than they need to.
Right. Like they're making a killing while everyone else is struggling. So this new law, is it basically saying, hey, you can't do that anymore?
Pretty much. It's like the government stepping in and saying, we hear you, we know you're hurting, and we're going to do something to help.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like a way of trying to protect people.
Exactly.
Okay, last but not least, we need to talk about something that could have some pretty big consequences down the road.
Yeah.
What's going on with U.S.-Australia trade relations?
Yes. That. Not the easiest topic to explain, but it's important.
It is. So break it down for us. What's the deal?
Well, former U.S. President Donald Trump, he's been making noises about imposing new tariffs, and that's causing a lot of uncertainty about the future of trade between the U.S. and Australia.
Right. But he's not even president anymore, right?
Nope.
So why is this still a thing?
Well, even though he's not in the Oval Office anymore, the things he says and the policies he pushed for, they can still have a ripple effect.
Okay, so it's like his shadow is still looming over everything.
Kind of, yeah. And these kinds of shifts in international trade, they can really impact the Australian economy, and that trickles down to everyday Australians.
Yeah. So how could this affect things here?
Well, if those tariffs do go into effect, it could make Australian products more expensive in the U.S., which could hurt our exports.
Oh, right. So, like, our stuff wouldn't be as competitive anymore.
Exactly. And that could have a knock-on effect on jobs and economic growth here in Australia.
Wow. So this is something we should definitely be keeping an eye on.
For sure. It just goes to show how interconnected our economy is with the rest of the world. What happens over there can have a real impact over here.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was a whirlwind tour of everything going on in the lead up to the Australian federal election. We covered a ton of ground. We looked at Albanese's big healthcare pledge and his decision to rule out a coalition with the Greens.
Big moves.
Big moves. Then we looked at Dutton's focus on regional needs and disaster preparedness in Queensland. And let's not forget about those campaign disruptions and security concerns, which, kind of add a bit of drama to the whole thing.
A bit of spice.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we dove into those sometimes conflicting poll numbers, which are showing a very tight race. Then we tackled the cost of living crisis and that proposal to ban price gouging in supermarkets.
Hitting where it hurts.
Yeah. And finally, we explored the potential impact of those looming U.S. trade tensions. So much to think about.
It's a lot, right?
It really is. But this is just a snapshot of where things stand right now. As we all know, politics is a constantly moving target. So I want to hear from you, our listeners. What stood out to you the most? What are you most curious about? And how do you think all these different pieces of the puzzle might fit together to shape the final outcome of this election?
Yeah, chime in. We want to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning of what's shaping up to be a fascinating and probably a pretty unpredictable election. So stay tuned, stay engaged, and keep those news snippets coming our way. We'll do our best to keep making sense of it all for you.
Until next time.
See you then.